of the map, representing Cloud9, the Blue Terran, it is GuMiho. A master of creativity, aggression, and brutal cheese in this matchup.
Absolutely, Pig. As spawning in the bottom right, we have your American hero. It is Astrea representing Virtus Pro.
Known for his creative styles, the self-dubbed president of the Clown College, the North American server. He has a lot of fun. He does not take himself too seriously, Max Angel, Astrea. But he's actually come into this match with a rather unique circumstance. We just heard backstage, right?
I was just speaking to Max before he was getting ready to play, and it turns out he actually forgot his mouse at the hotel. So right now he is playing game one, not on a touchpad. He is borrowing a mouse from somebody else, and he is hoping that his mouse will arrive. It is currently being shuttled over from the hotel room for game number 2, but in a stage like this one, your first match, your first best of 5 going up against an opponent as tricky as GuMiho, you kind of want to be in the zone. You want to be as focused and as collected as possible. And already Astrea, I mean, imagine the heart-sinking moment of realizing, oh, I forgot my mouse.
I mean, I remember going to tournaments and realizing I had my mouse pad or this was wrong, my keyboard just stopped working, and it was always so hard to deal with. However, as I've gotten older, I can pick up and play on a mouse and keyboard at, like, 80-90% pretty well. The 80-90% isn't good enough when you're playing at a world championship, is it, State? No. That being said, this does potentially have a side effect where it could relieve some pressure off his shoulders. Say, you know what, let's just, I'm not even expecting to win this first game or two. Just got to, hang in here, see if I can go toe-to-toe with GuMiho, and it could lead to a weird result. Harston famously back in 2016, won a tournament not using his own, was it keyboard or mouse? He had to borrow some peripherals. He was sick with the flu a day or two beforehand, like literally during the earlier stages of the tournament. He ended up winning GPL in China back then. I think it was in Shanghai. So it's happened before where people have won with like unfamiliar, peripherals and stuff. But it definitely is an adjustment. We'll see how well Astrea handles this as he goes for a quick Twilight opening.
I mean, imagine Astrea actually coming away with a win here in game number 1. And then going into game number 2 being like, okay, yeah, I will take my mouse now. It's time to unlock that next level.
It would be very fitting with the way these two play, because they both play such oddball games, for him to win 2 games, get his mouse, and lose the next 2 once he gets his own mouse. Anyways, not to overshadow the gameplay, let's talk a little bit about the build orders as GuMiho opens up with an early Cyclone. Command Center on the high ground, very safe, conservative opening for him. Not wanting to invest in things like Reapers on this map because that Reaper wall off on the cliff just kind of blocks Reapers from really ever getting any information. And we are going to see a gateway, second gate Robo coming in very early. So even though it was Twilight first, it's very quickly into Robo. Astrea wants to be able to get that scouting out. Yeah, and this is Astrea playing very safe against an opponent like GuMiho. And I've been speaking with Astrea quite a bit. Of course, we're on the same flight coming in from Seoul all the way here to Riyadh for the EWC. And him looking at GuMiho as his first opponent, this is a very tricky guy. This is someone that you want to scout for, that you're willing to sacrifice an adept in the main base to really just find out what kind of pieces he is getting on the board, because GuMiho has some real tricks up his sleeve. But actually, Pig, take a look right now at the production tab. We have a Dark Shrine warping in very quickly here for Astrea. And I think he has one adept. This is your classic Dark Templar drop build. This build order, it relies on you pinning the Terran at home. Unfortunately for him, the Terran built a medevac. And that's bad news, because it means GuMiho's going to find out what's coming his way and potentially do a massive amount of damage as well. Don't get me wrong, it's still going to be hard for GuMiho to defend. And GuMiho, he's building a Raven State. Yeah, the Raven coming in just in the nick of time as that Warp Prism finally finishes out of that Robo. And GuMiho coming into the main base. Oh, should he have gone on that first pylon, he would have found that Dark Shrine immediately, but still landing over here on the left side in a moment. Once that vision creeps in, he will unlock the tech here coming in from Astrea. Now keep in mind, he does have the Raven about to finish back at home, but he doesn't have any detection here on the front line. Dark Shrine is now warping in. Probes already going down. 3 of them. 4 of them. Can we make it 5? Yes, we can. GuMiho struggles to get the 6th one. Indeed, he does. Lifts up, goes into the natural expansion, but cross-map Pig. The DTs, they are warping in. Already big damage, though. 7-8 probes going down, trying to fight with his workers is Astrea. 9 workers going down. The Dark Templar have some heavy lifting to do, but with a Raven ready on standby, there can be no mistakes on the micro. You want to keep these Dark Templar alive. Pick off an SCV or 2, but do not throw them away. GuMiho with a quick response. Raven tank Marine deals with the Dark Templar in the main. Second one warps in. He'll have to save those as the other Dark Templar coming in the natural hits the refinery. Unfortunate. Only gets 2 SCVs. but he hasn't lost his Dark Templar yet, so Astrea not overcommitting, but having lost 9 probes of his own, that is an issue. And oh, that Warp Prism is just off screen there, as we are going to be seeing all these SCVs idling. The Warp Prism almost going down.
Yeah, has GuMiho, he just has not realized yet. This honestly feels like a lot of damage, more than just the 3 SCVs, because that's idle time on, what, a fair dozen workers right there in the main base of GuMiho, as he sends them all right back down to the natural expansion. And we're actually going to have a really old school build or adjustment now coming in from Astrea, with the Archon warping in from these 2 DTs. So some Archon drops here in the cards for our American Protoss player, as GuMiho will spot that with a medevac.
Stim, combat shields, and +1 all on the way. GuMiho is in a very good position. Astrea realizing taking a 3rd base right now is not just a conundrum, it's an impossibility. He's going to keep it really simple. Archon drop there on one side, few Stalkers poking forward to just get a bit of control outside the natural. And he's going to try and go for 2-base Storm Zealot by the looks of it. Maybe even just Zealot Archon, to be fair. He might want to keep it really simple, but without the 3rd base, if GuMiho gets wind of this, he's just got to chill out at home, defend, take no more damage, because you've got more income and you're building a much better army in the long term.
Yeah, Archon drops here into the natural expansion, sees the siege tank as GuMiho is going to poke forward. Those Stalkers, I don't think they're on an intercept path. Yeah, they're sitting right in between the natural and the 3rd, so we'll not see the Raven, we'll not see the medevac.
Oh, his Adept spotted it just then, actually.
Okay. And
it does kind of pull back for GuMiho. GuMiho's just going to chill for now. That's the right call as Storm starts up. Astrea will be having to start a 3rd Nexus soon. If he doesn't get the 3rd Nexus started soon, he's just like locked into a 2-base all-in, so it goes down.
That scan, though, for GuMiho, it did not catch the Templar Archives, but he sees the Templar warping in immediately in the natural expansion. He now knows he has a window where he can actually get some damage done. Astrea, at most, is going to have maybe 2, 3 storms in the bag once GuMiho moves cross-map. And because Astrea went into the DT tech, he went for the Dark Templar drop, he lost 9 probes. He's now quickly teching into Storm. He's not going to have a lot of Gateway Army units to really support the high-tech AoE splash damage on the ground. And GuMiho, he knows this. He is full sending to that 3rd base. He is looking to get some damage done.
The pre-spread as well, State. He knows as long as the first storms don't do game-ending damage, like he's going to be able to outweather this, because there's like 3 Zealots, 5 Stalkers, not even an Immortal on the map yet.
Yeah.
Astrea cannot defend that 3rd base. He's trying to build 5 more pylons as he is supply blocked right now. 3rd Nexus will have to be cancelled.
What a painful moment here for Astrea. He has no hope of holding on to the natural expansion. And if GuMiho decides that he wants to slowly entrench himself, moving closer and closer to the natural expansion here of Astrea, it'll be tough for Astrea to actually hold on, because Storm, it's not really good at closing the gap against those siege tanks.
Tanks in a beautiful position, shelling on the gateway. The Robo's looking very exposed as well. And it's not enough Marines and Marauders that it's worth storming, so he goes for the feedbacks. That's actually a really cute adjustment from Astrea, realizing that might be the more reliable damage here.
Yeah, I mean, it's already been a couple of sims here on this bio, so with only 1 medevac with, you know, just a little tiny bit of energy, it is some fair damage that he's been able to get done. And I think he's actually looking for the full 270-degree surround right now. Those Zealots coming in from the top left side now. Astrea, he is pouncing on this position. The bio is still very low on HP. Auto turrets get dropped down. The Zealots trying to close the gap. Huge storms coming in from Astrea as he actually is able to clean this up with the 3rd base warping in behind it. And those feedbacks in retrospect now look brilliant, Pig.
Softening that army up very well. It was a very good fight for Astrea, but it was a necessary fight because his positioning was not great. But you know what? He built the 3rd on the other side while that was all going on. He's back up 5 workers. Of course, he is miles behind in the upgrades. His forge is only halfway done, and he realizes he's got a lot of work to do to get back in this game.
Yeah.
He drops a 4th Nexus. Astrea is famous for being able to take a punch in this matchup better than anyone else. He plays PvT like Rocky Balboa. He says, punch me in the face until you get exhausted, because he'll just bounce back because he's very good at pushing that economy, but he misses this army moving out. GuMiho making kind of a dangerous move, but it could pay off huge. Those High Templar are nowhere nearby. GuMiho sees he's out of position. He's going to dive on it.
Oh, these Templar, I don't even think they have enough energy for Storm. They're going to get picked off immediately right now. Reinforcements coming in, but GuMiho, he's already gotten his damage done. That medevac will be able to escape alive. And Astrea, even though he had that big win and fight, you have to keep in mind, he has been set very far back. It took him a lot to actually hold off against that push. Meanwhile, GuMiho, his 3rd base is online. He is pumping out the SCVs. It's only a 10-worker lead right now here for Astrea.
GuMiho's kind of getting caught on the map in 2 spots at once, though. Astrea's going to get a few pickoffs on each side. A couple Marauders very low there, but actually turns and gets a few Zealots. The High Templar are wanting to punish this. Stalkers are nearby. GuMiho has got to be very careful to not get jumped on. The other hand, Astrea wandering into the middle ground. That is so much bio. And Astrea, he's got 7 High Templar, a Warp Prism, a few Immortals and Zealots. But if the Storms don't land, the Marine Marauder is going to roll over his Gateway-based army.
Not again! The Templar again don't have energy for Storm, and the big Storms right there in the middle of the map. GuMiho, the splits do come through, so it's only half damage, and he does have enough bio to actually take these Archons to town. Immortals also going to get cleaned up. Another Storm, very good there from Astrea, actually able to save that one Immortal, but the Medivacs do escape alive, and GuMiho, although he lost that fight, oh my god, that Archon with 21 kills. GuMiho still was able to take out so many of the key units from the Protoss arsenal.
He did, but 75 workers for Astrea. Second Forge starts up his upgrades. GuMiho does not have progression right now. He is doing a 59 worker, 3 base, bio, ghost, kind of all in. Yes, he's got an armor and he's starting +2 weapons. We don't see a sign of a 4th command center, no extra workers. What Astrea needs to do is knuckle down and focus on surviving the next engagement, because GuMiho is going to once again come with an army advantage. He's going to have EMP this time, so suddenly your splash damage is not as reliable. Rebuilding the Prism is huge. Slowly starting to think about getting into Robo-Bait could be nice. Good reaction so far by Astrea. He's going to need to build a cannon there just to make sure these Widow Mines don't screw around with him for too long. Lovely micro there from GuMiho as his army moves down the right side, getting ready for another 2-pronged assault.
Yeah, and I wonder when those ghosts are actually going to enter the fray here, because Astrea, he has already been getting caught, and yeah, those are the first ghosts on screen right now in the middle of the map. He's already been getting caught so many times between the 3rd and the natural with Templar at like 60, 70 energy, just barely not enough to storm. But the storms coming in from the side have been barely enough. Okay, the ghost coming in. EMP catches 2 of the Templar. Only 1 more storm right now on the ground. There are 2 Templar left in that War Prism, but it's already down on half HP. No shields. Another EMP comes down. Archon immediately gets morphed there. Very little splash damage right now for the American Protoss.
He's still got 2 High Templar in the War Prism and flanking High Templar. GuMiho goes a bit too deep, and it looks like he's getting punished here. Remember, the War Prism's still there in reserve. GuMiho is he's overextending a lot, and Astrea is just calmly defending right now. He's got 2-1 upgrades almost finished there as GuMiho goes to a 4th command center and 8 ranks, but there's no extra workers. The first workers that GuMiho's built in minutes. He's been sitting on a rather low economy in that fast 4th base for Astrea. You know, I always talk about players have their special flair, their special thing they do better than anyone else. For MaxPax, it's knowing when to build Dark Templar. For Astrea, it's knowing when to build 2 bases at once and make 30 more probes. And it's when other players would be worried about losing, Astrea has the spidey sense for when he can get away with it. And now, 2nd Robo-Bait, 5th Nexus. He's taken every punch GuMiho swings at him. Now, the funny thing is, Astrea is amazing at making comebacks and hanging on and fighting back. His weakness is actually sometimes, once he gets the advantage, getting caught out of position. You know, just getting a little bit docile and letting GuMiho maybe out-position him. So even though I think Astrea has a better position right now, he's still got to be very careful. He hasn't made it to Colossus or Disruptors yet. This is a window where ghosts are the superior tech to High Templar Archon.
Yeah, I love the worker comparison graphic we had there just a moment ago in the bottom right, just really highlighting your point that GuMiho, he's been cutting SCVs for a long time, and that's why we see Astrea right now kind of exploding on the map in terms of army supply, in terms of macro, because that 4th base, that healthy worker count has been really paying off.
Extended Thermal Lance has been forgotten so far for Astrea. As he starts to Colossus, needs to remember that range upgrade on those, as the upgrades are dead even. The army supply is also dead even. It's all about the engagements from this point. GuMiho's done a good job of denying Astrea's map vision on that right side. Looks like GuMiho's entire army is starting to come in from here with some EMPs, getting rid of the energy. Astrea wisely gives up control of the Nexus, backs off, waits for reinforcements.
Oh, GuMiho actually trying to move in on these units and get those Immortals at least, but the reinforcements finally do come in from Astrea. He had his army split all the way down to the bottom left side and on the right side there, trying to defend 2 locations, but GuMiho really corralling his forces, able to get that cancel on the Nexus, and also cleaning up these spotter pylons. GuMiho is the kind of Terran player that would love to try and out-multitask Astrea here if he can, but Astrea has just been so on point with splitting his armies.
You know what I love about this? Fusion cores come in for GuMiho, but he doesn't go for Lib-Range straight away. He goes for Caduceus Reactor first. Massively underrated upgrade. It is something so many players just delay until 20 minutes plus in the game. It gives you double Medivac energy regen rate. And in the late game, you don't want that many Medivacs, just 6 or 8. But if they've got double energy regen, they will keep your army topped up on hit points. He's going to a triple Lib transition as well, triple starport. If Astrea lets him get there without asserting some map control. Astrea's in trouble. Astrea needs to get forward on this map and start taking control because he's got a much scarier army now that the Colossus are here. Extended thermal lance. He's adding lots of gateways. But Astrea can't, like I said, he can't be too docile. He can't sit back. He's got to move forward on the map and take the fight to GuMiho right now while he's got the advantage. Because once 10 libs are out with range, this is going to seesaw back in GuMiho's favor. Astrea needs to use this window right now.
Yeah, but right now he's still staying back. He's waiting until GuMiho moves and tries to go in for an engagement. Right now these armies are going to clash a little bit here in the center. Actually, that's a very small force here for GuMiho. If Astrea catches wind and chases it down, he could have gotten a lot of damage done. Instead, he's going to set his eyes on where the rest of the army is over here on the left side. But I mean, more to your point, Pig, Astrea is still just kind of hunkering down and playing the late game. But with Liberators now entering on the map, eventually that pendulum is going to swing. Liberator range already halfway done, and with these Liberators getting pumped, I don't see Astrea winning a fight unless he has some kind of miracle engagement once GuMiho reaches max supply with a ton of libs.
I mean,
this is his window to get damage done. +3 ground weapons about to complete. I mean, it's 3-2 upgrades. They're completely mirrored between GuMiho and Astrea right now. Astrea on the ground has the much stronger army. It is time to move.
You're absolutely right that there are chances against Lib range to outposition, but I mean, right now, EMPs are great. Astrea getting chased home here. His army, I thought he was going to counterattack, but he pulls back. He's pulling back with his other army. They've got a lot of ground to cover. GuMiho is going to shove it in. There's no splash damage here right now. Pushing into the battery overcharge. Storm comes in from behind. Massive storms on top of the army as GuMiho overextended once again.
I mean, he might be overextending, but so far Astrea hasn't gotten the killing blow on this force. These Liberators now going to end siege as GuMiho is on the run. Astrea, you got to chase this down, man. That bio is so low on HP. It is so wounded. This is the moment where Astrea can absolutely take the fight to GuMiho. But for now, it seems like, is he going for the counterattack?
Yeah, GuMiho realizes he can't get home, so he's like, well, let's base trade then, baby. And you know what? It's not a bad way to do it. It's a good way to try and avoid the fact that right now, Astrea's army is very frightening. GuMiho has more army supply, though, and he's got libs at home. A brilliant call for him. There's nothing to stop the base trade unless a recall comes in for Astrea. I really like the way GuMiho is pouncing in. You know, GuMiho is so clever at finding a way to turn disadvantage to advantage, and oh my gosh, I don't know about this push for Astrea. His army's kind of stumbling in a little bit. I feel like Astrea's army's going into a really awkward position right now. He's trying to walk Colossus Stalker up the cliff. This is a very interesting fight because the Colossus Stalker's breached the main. Meanwhile, the natural of GuMiho is getting overwhelmed. But of course, the entire Protoss main is disappearing as we speak. And it does feel like the higher damage of the bio is going to clear out the main much faster than the Stalker Colossus.
Well, it seems like the awkward push up the ramp actually working in the favor here of Astrea as he was able to quickly get on the production with the Colossi, with the Stalkers. And an important thing to note right now, army supplies still in favor of Astrea. He was able to nip the Liberator transition in the bud a little bit by pouncing on those Stargates. And look at the banks. We have 2.5k, 2.5k in the bank for Astrea. Wind storms on the high ground. I mean, yeah, you do have a lot of energy on those medevacs, but can it keep pace with all of these storms?
That's crazy.
Astrea playing a master class of defense. I mean, what a comeback here in game number 1.
This is very good for him now. He's got so many High Templar on the map. A Fleet Beacon coming in, so he can break a stalemate with Tempest as well. Of course, massively supply blocked is Astrea, but he's got more money in the bank. GuMiho still has 3 mining bases, but so does Astrea. And both sides are going to be hard-pressed to rebuild out of 69 supply for GuMiho, so he's going to have to build about 10 depots before he can produce. Astrea only needs about 5 or 6 pylons to unsupply cap himself, but right now at 40 army supply. And definitely a fascinating game 1 because it felt so awkward for Astrea early on, but he got that fantastic storm break and feels like GuMiho has been maybe pressing his advantage a bit too deep. This game really has been the story of Astrea kind of teetering on the brink, falling back, but GuMiho almost like stepping into the trap. And when Astrea's jaws close, the fights have just suddenly turned, and that's the explosive power of Storm.
And what a brilliant move from Astrea, deciding he is not going to chase down the weak army that he can eventually kill. The more time-sensitive thing is the Liberator transition, and so he goes straight for the throat. He's like, you know what? I can sacrifice my base. I have enough economy. I have these defensive storms I can use to anchor my third. And that game plan just working beautifully right now for Astrea. These armies, as they kind of posture here on the top side of the map, Astrea still with a much stronger ground force. Of course, we do have the libs here for
There's only
GuMiho.
2 ghosts.
Oh,
only
the storms.
And only 2 ghosts. I mean, there's just no way to deal with this number of High Templar.
There's
you don't have
so
enough
many.
EMPs. He's storming the worker line. It's an impossibility here for GuMiho. He's trapped between a rock and a hard place, trying to rebuild his libs. The storm's coming down there. Knights are like, okay, we probably need some supporting units to protect us. And Astrea will reposition, of course, to allocate towards that. Mothership is on the way right now. That's the last thing I would ever think of building in this scenario, but that just shows you how Astrea's brain is truly built different. The Colossus Stalker coming forward, the Medivacs do pick up. Storm's all over. GuMiho does not have the numbers. He's down to 69 army supply up against 110. And Astrea calmly and methodically working his way forward. 12 Stalkers warping into the time. There is way too much money for the Protoss player. GuMiho's going to hang in here, and I think there's a good reason why, right? He's made some crazy comebacks for us, like Showtime and other players recently in Home Story Cup. So, hey, fight it out. You don't know the situation. If he could see those numbers at the bottom of the screen, I think he'd probably tap out.
Yeah, this is the biggest StarCraft II tournament in history. You are not going to leave the game unless you are absolutely certain you're lost. And GuMiho does not see the full picture that we see. He does not see that Astrea is nearly maxed with a mothership, with 5 or 6K resources in the bank. But
ooh, good Storm on the Vikings.
Yeah, the Storm's very good. But I mean, GuMiho, he is on a timer. Astrea eventually is going to be able to whittle him down.
Yeah, you know, you want us to wonder as well, is it going longer good? Because then Astrea's, mouse maybe gets to him. On the other hand,
I actually forgot about the mouse.
Maybe since you spoke to him, he may have found another player who has the exact same mouse. So it might be effectively changing nothing right now. You know? Storm coming in on the Vikings and the Libs, the Stalkers coming forward, the Colossus. Great position for GuMiho. But it doesn't matter if you don't have the numbers. The Libs getting some good shots off.
I mean, Astrea is not taking the best engagement, but I think he recognizes that he kind of doesn't need to. He can really just muscle over the Terran at this point as 12 more Stalkers warp in. They should eventually be able to clean up those Marauders on the other side of the map. Astrea is still sitting with a ton of a bank, and GuMiho, I gotta give him credit, man. He is dead to rights and has been for a good minute, but he is making a show of this thing. He is sniping expansions. He is getting so much damage done.
Ever since 2005, Fantasy's been inspiring Terran players all around the world state. You know, like when he was playing StarCraft II, people used to make a lot of fun of Fantasy, staying in games where he was way behind, and then he made that one comeback with 2 Cloaked Banshees against Sue, who had no detection. It took him about 20 minutes to kill everything he had. But he used invisibility and managed to bring it back. And we said, okay, you know, you're looking for that moonshot, that 1 in 100, that 1 in 1,000 chance. And that's, hey, there we go. Does trap the last drop. Recall, Astrea getting it with style. And very much a sigh of relief there for Astrea after an intense Game 1 to start the series.
Yeah, and I wonder if he's like, oh, is that my mouse? Have you got my mouse for me now? All right, let me quickly unplug this thing.
It's a man who just got a special delivery. No, stick with it. That's your lucky mouse now. Keep playing with that one. He's swapping it out now. Big smile on his face we can see there on the player feeds. And really cool to see. I've never seen him. His tongue's out. He just looks so happy right now.
Yeah.
Great start to the series for him, man.
He played with a mouse that he might have never played with before, this model of mouse, and he is able to take the win. Imagine him bringing out this new mouse right now and losing the next game. Like, you'd be like, hey, wait, can I get the first one back, please? Can I borrow that for 1 or 2 more hours?
You've been making fun of me, Ryan, for using a wired mouse. He just won a game with a wired mouse in a world championship. Maybe wired mouse, you know, the old man way is the way to do it, you know, Still playing with wired mice in 2024. Let's do it, man.
Yeah, that is old school. I'm one of those guys, too. I've been using wired mouse for a fairly long time. And Astrea, this miracle hold is really what brought him back into this game, because the early game, it was not looking the best for him by any stretch. But the feedbacks on the Medivacs were so smart, where he couldn't get sustained damage with the Storm because the healing eventually would be able to outpace it, and the range was messing him up. Was beautiful. And then the Storm's coming in right here. You see the bio get absolutely obliterated.
Those Archons.
Our observer highlighted at one point, we had an Archon at some stage in this game that had 20-plus kills.
I think that
was
actually
absolutely absurd.
Yeah. It was. Their splash damage was stacking like crazy, man.
Astrea had some really beautiful engagements in a composition that is honestly kind of hard to make work sometimes when the games get really scrappy like this with Storm, because you whiff on 1 or 2 Storms in a critical fight, and suddenly the main DPS of your army is suddenly off of the board. So really, you don't have a lot to play with, but Astrea just with some beautiful moves. You see right there the winning moment. He is just on fire. And for GuMiho, that's a frustrating way to start this best-of-5 series, because Astrea, let me tell you, he is no slouch. He has been grinding, getting ready for this one. He has been boot camping in Korean with a ton of other gamers, Clem included. And really, that practice, it is paying off. He is looking fantastic.
Yeah, you know, it's really cool. They had that little team house going over there. You know, you have exceptionally skillful players, but you also have a bunch of creative guys in there, like Future, who are just have such a weird, unique perspective on the game. So I think, especially in this matchup, you're living with Clem and Future. You've got extreme mechanics and extreme brain power. Astrea is very well prepared and he's been thinking through his strategies. And that's important because GuMiho traditionally has preyed upon Astrea. I mean, recently, the last 2 times they played, which was over 6 months ago, it was kind of start of this year, late last year, Astrea won those 2 series in some online tournaments, you know, a couple of 2 wins. Before that, GuMiho won 8 times in a row, and overall is still more than 2-1, you know, in historical head-to-head records. So traditionally, GuMiho's kind of unique builds, his aggression, his quick transitions into lib range, his heavy marine tank timings have done very well against Astrea. So we're going to see what he brings out in the next map.
Well, Astrea looks spectacular there in game number 1. I'm really curious what his approach is going to be here in game number 2. Will we see some more out-of-the-box thinking here? As spawning in the top right, the American hero representing Virtus Pro, it is Astrea.
And his opponent in the top left side of Ghost River, it's a small rush distance map. Let's see if he can utilize that in his favor. Representing Cloud9, it's GuMiho. Visibly frustrated at the end of the previous game, but you can see he's had a reset. He's looking really clued in, focused, and he's going to build a very close barracks. Is that going to float that in and maybe build Marauders behind the natural? Like, it's very close.
Yeah, I'm curious about the positioning. It feels like it's just one Rax Reaper proxy, but well, I mean, it's GuMiho, so I'm very, I'm not very keen on predicting exactly what he's going to do.
But you can't jump up there with a Reaper is the only problem.
Oh,
so
is there no angle at all on those rocks?
No, you have to go all the way around, which is why I'm thinking he's going to float that up.
Yeah, you must be right.
Could still just be Reaper. You know, if you want to go super old school, you build 3 Marines in a bunker behind their natural secretly, but we'll have to see. GuMiho is a master of surprises, one of the most creative Terran players. He used to play random, for those who don't know, for a while back in like Wings of Liberty. He's a player who's had a lot of success over the years. He's won championships with battle cruisers before the battle cruiser was any good as a unit, so he's an awesome player.
Oh, he's already building another structure on the low ground, too. So that's how he's going to save the extra money. And the pylon! Oh, the range coming in! The vision range!
Oh, the Cabal!
The Cabal!
Yes. And the barracks has one less vision than the pylons. He doesn't know he's being spotted. To be fair, it's a very quick Reaper either way. It's not like, oh my gosh, he's trying to hide this that much longer. But is that going to be just Hellions, do you think, rallying in behind? Or do you think it's maybe like Widow Mines? I'm so curious what the next step is. I think it's got to just be a few Hellions.
Yeah, I really don't know. I could potentially see it being...
Or you could build a starport? Could it be just elevate Hellions?
I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, again, it is GuMiho. He is liable to doing absolutely anything in this scenario. Like, he might build a starport and then throw it on a fusion core and go for something like that. He is crazy.
You were right. Cyclone into starport. So he's got no production at home at all. GuMiho is like 100% committed to the aggression. Astrea's already thinking about a counter. He's gone 1-base Twilight. So he's going to go for Dark Templar. It's hard to deal with Dark Templar when you don't have a Raven. You're not going to build a Raven on his side of the map. And you also only got 1 orbital for scans. This game is bizarre right now.
Oh, man, I am feasting on this moment. This is such a cool build. This is the kind of thing that as soon as the bracket got released for the Esports World Cup, I was like, Astrea GuMiho, I have my eyes set on this one. I hope I get to cast it because these are 2 of the smartest, brainiest, most creative players we have for Terran, for Protoss. And look at this just unbelievable clash of builds. And look at this Reaper even getting this scout off on the Dark Shrine. Instantly gets canceled. Blink gets started up instead.
I actually think it would have been good if he kept it. Because
you could still warp some in.
But he doesn't know the factory and the starport are there. Astrea's thinking, oh, this isn't great. But if he knew about this coming in, I think he'd keep the Dark Shrine up. As it is, does he have enough to defend 2 Cyclones? He's only got a couple Stalkers. I don't think there's a battery available. He's got to be very careful. These 2 Cyclones have a lot of damage. If they get rid of 1 Stalker and then another, it's going to snowball.
Oh, and with the SimCity, too, it's actually going to be a little bit tough for Astrea to work his way back.
Very, very tough to deal with this.
Yeah.
Oh, he's out of position so badly right now. He's so out of position. He doesn't have recall energy state.
Where are those stalkers? Oh, are they in the middle of the map?
He thought GuMiho was going to move out to the proxy, so he went out to intercept him. But he had no idea there was a factory right outside his base. And now he's caught completely out of position, losing 6 probes and all of the mining in his main base temporarily. Cancels himself a structure there. And look at this, the Cyclones can just move around. This wall off is not going well for him, but 2 Stalkers do come in. Cyclone's getting great damage though.
I mean, we're really able to utilize the range right now. With these 3 Stalkers, Astrea is going to try and get that medevac if he possibly can. That would save the situation, but GuMiho, his micro is just, He's almost baiting it with a medevac, luring it forward, bringing it right back. And he is able to absolutely maximize the damage, and he is not done just yet. Peeks into the main base again. Finally, 2 Stalkers able to warp in and put that under control, but oh, that was a lot of damage. I did not realize how far away those 2 Stalkers were for Astrea. I was looking at, the units tab, like, well, 2 Stalkers, yeah, I get it's 2 Cyclones and medevac. There's a lot of dropship micro that can happen. It's not going to be that great, but you can kind of mitigate the damage a little.
You're going to lose a few probes. You're not going to lose almighty times 6, 7 probes and all of that. You're absolutely right, but man, the tanks are out in the front as well. It's 3-gate production. He's got Blink now finished. Oh, no, he doesn't. Did he cancel Blink?
I think he canceled it for money.
Oh.
He canceled, I believe, his Robo, and he canceled Blink. That is how strapped for cash Astrea was, trying to hold on against this. And what a painful moment. And think about how this would be different if GuMiho had not spotted that Dark Shrine.
Yeah,
that
huge.
really changed the whole flow of this game here for Astrea's.
Yeah, he did not really have an answer to the Dark Shrine. It was going to be uncomfortable, but that made Astrea move out with his Stalkers as well as cancel the Dark Shrine. And now Astrea finds himself down in army, and he's going to be trying to defend with Blink and a Sentry. Just a bunch of Stalkers and a Sentry against mass Marine tank, medevacs, there's a Liberator, multiple Cyclones. GuMiho should be able to finish him off whenever he decides to move in. The only hope for Astrea is force fields and the glory of battery overcharge. And I'm sure there's a Terran player out there who's had some bad experiences with Protoss who thinks, yeah, shield battery overcharge can defend this army. I'm going to tell you, I don't think so.
He doesn't have enough energy for a force field either right there on this Sentry. So GuMiho just able to work his way up the ramp. He will be able to catch 1 medevac. That's a nice pick off there for Astrea, but he's going to need a lot more free damage like that if he wants to win this fight, because the Stalkers of Blink is just now finishing. But the firepower of this Terran army is absurd.
Once those tanks are sieged, GuMiho's got natural control. He'll get a tank in range of the pylon now. Just slowly going to depower the battery overcharge, which is already very far back. Great medevac micro. And I love this. GuMiho just leaning into the aggression, taking advantage of his opponent's information deficit. And Astrea tried to do a very odd 1-base play to kind of counteract it, and he just did not end up quite coming out there.
I like the move, blinking on the low ground here at the 3rd base, able to pick off that Liberator. But again, with 3 siege tanks, they just levy so much damage on those Stalkers. This Nexus isn't going to fall. GuMiho, he has a natural expansion online behind this. He's already gearing up with some more barracks.
Oh, even lifts the tank up to the high ground with the medevac. Nice, ferrying the units to safety. Probes going down to the natural, and Astrea not realizing this floating in barracks was just stage 1. GuMiho always is stage 2 and a stage 3. You got to be ready for all of them, or he will punish you. Stalker counterattack, looking very desperate on the other side of the map. He's going to blink up the main base. The Marines and the SCVs are going to desperately try to hang on. He's got a good Marine count, and actually a stim now as well, I believe, does GuMiho. So you can see the picture-in-picture. The Stalkers there will eventually get overwhelmed by the stim Marines, SCVs, and a single tank coming back to defend.
Yeah, GG gets called, and man, what a unique game number 2. I'm a little bit sad there for Astrea because, again, had that Dark Shrine completed, we would have a completely different game.
Yes.
That plus the 2 Stalkers being caught out of position, just very painful here for Astrea, as it's going to go down to a best of 3. 2 map wins away for either of these guys, but what a treat of a series so far. This has been so much fun, Pig.
I like that GuMiho's reaction when he wins is almost as pained as when he loses. He's like, there's like a real grimace on his face. Like, that game was weird. I mean, who goes 1-base Dark Templar? This guy's crazy.
You got to think about the pressure these players are also putting on themselves, because $400,000 is that first place prize is life-changing money. I mean, I don't throw that term around lightly. It is absolutely life-changing money. Just for first place. And not just that, I mean, all the way up the ranks here in this 18-player tournament, the prize just keeps getting better and better and better. And so for all these guys,
there's nothing lesser than a $5,000 prize difference. It's massive.
Yeah, there is just so much on the line, both for GuMiho, for Astrea, for everyone competing. And this is the kind of situation where, even as a pro gamer, as seasoned as Astrea, as GuMiho, you're going to be coming onto this stage, and it is truly a stage like no other. Not only is this going to be the World Championship, the end of the circuit, but this is EWC. This is the biggest RTS prize pool in history, $1 million. That is a rank above everything else that we have had in StarCraft II, and you could really see it, you know, in Beyond in that previous series against Olivero, his emotions absolutely coming out. And GuMiho in Game 1 and Game 2, the exact same thing. There is so much pressure on every player in this punishing format to make every game count.
Pressure is on. You can see the players reacting a little bit differently so far. Let's see what happens in Game 3. It's going to be Golden Aura in the top left side of the map, representing VP. It is Astrea.
And spawning in the bottom right, tying the series up 1-1, it is Cloud9's GuMiho.
I like that we've replaced the Cloud9 logo just with the Terran logo there. That's how patriotic GuMiho is for the Terran faction. Nice. He's looking really good in that last game. I imagine we're going to see GuMiho lean back into maybe one of his classic like double reactor builds in this game or the next, you know, where he just gets stim and shields off the same guy. Interesting, pulls the SCV off the barracks straight away. He's not unwilling to give up a little bit of barracks build time in order to preserve his SCV hit points. Kind of most Terrans don't want to delay that barracks at all. That to me says that GuMiho is probably planning to skip the Reaper and go for a quick factory. So he doesn't care about barracks build time because you miss a few seconds where it doesn't do anything with this build anyway.
That is a really smart read, actually, Pig. I didn't even consider that.
Or he just doesn't like probes walking in his base. Who knows? Could
Get out of
be
here.
over-reading into it, over-analyzing maybe.
Yeah, well, coming here for Astrea, I feel like most games where he's going to try and play something a little bit more standard are probably going to look like this in the early game with the instant probe scout, because GuMiho, I feel like in most of the matches he's going to be playing in TVP over the course of this entire tournament, should he play another Protoss after Astrea, he loves to lean into the 2 gas pressure early on because, I mean, there's like a Swiss Army knife of different builds you can go for any Terran player truly, but for GuMiho, I mean, he is a step above. He is the most crafty of the crafty Terrans. And Astrea wants to try and glean any possible information he can with these early probes, but unfortunately for him, there isn't really that much of a payoff. Yeah, he was able to harass some SCVs. Yeah, he was able to catch, you know, a little bit of mining time, a little bit of production time on that barracks there for GuMiho as well, but he didn't really get clued in on any critical tech because GuMiho isn't going for any critical tech this early. He's playing a pretty standard TVP opening.
I mean, it's a very safe opening for Astrea, right? And it kind of cancels out because it does force the SCVs off the line. The Reaper's like 7 seconds late right now. So it came out at like 2:05. It's meant to come out at 1:58. So just goes to show that, hey, that barracks was delayed from that probe harass. But of course, Astrea sacrificed a couple hundred minerals already because he hasn't been mining with this probe from the start of the game. So, you know, both players end up with their builds a little delayed, a little scuffed, some would say. But that's okay, as all is even. Second barracks goes down for GuMiho very early as he tries to sneak back into the main base. And this is already looking like one of those, you know, those 3 racks factory pushes that Coffee kind of popularized these about a year or 2 ago, where you just don't build medevacs. You go with lots of Marines, Marauders. It could be something like that. But GuMiho also has a few just 2 barracks variations where he'll get like a very quick +1 weapons and just have like a little section of Marines, tanks. He'll build just 1 or 2 medevacs without an add-on on the starport. And it's a bit weaker than a 3 racks. It's a bit slower than like the really fast 2-tank Marine push with only 1 barracks. It's this odd in-between timing. And these are the sort of things that GuMiho excels at, is just hitting you at a sort of oddball timing you don't have a lot of practice against. He takes you out of your realm of experience and makes you adapt.
Yeah, actually going for the Widow Mines too. You know, Golden Aura is one of these maps where it actually is very difficult as a Protoss player to survive into the mid-game by parrying the opening siege tank push should Terran decide to go for that build. But GuMiho kind of just playing in his own playbook at this moment, instead not going for that whatsoever, really. Instead, he is just doing, as you said, his own, playing to the beat of his own drum. He's going for this kind of middle ground in terms of opening. There is no siege tank in production just yet. It is just the Widow Mines. As Astrea back at home, he is really respecting the aggressive potential of GuMiho. He's getting a robotics facility quite early. He's going up all the way to 4 gas before taking the 3rd base, playing a very gas-heavy style.
The classic Astrea. Let's get all the tech on 2 base. And he'll still squeeze in a surprisingly early 3rd.
Very different from the way you would see like someone like Max Pax play at PVT, where, you know, you might see him skipping that 3rd or 4th gas for a very long time.
Yeah. This is dangerous. You know, it is dangerous. Astrea likes to play on that knife's edge in this matchup. It has got him in trouble sometimes in the past, but if it pays off, he has a sort of explosive macro. I mean, he saturated his natural at like 345. He was at 17 workers out of 16. Like, he's got so much minerals on 2 base. 3rd base has been delayed a little bit as this drop comes in. Robo Bay's started. Blink, it's not ready just yet. And the double mine drop comes in, should be spotted pretty quickly. And a pretty crisp response so far from Astrea. You've got to be careful to only give him 1 option. Otherwise, look at that micro. GuMiho's going to keep changing targets just to delay shooting. He wants to deny your mining time. And it's really causing a big delay here. You got to pull the worker off gas. Finally, GuMiho lets it fire, and Astrea can go back to mining. But that extra 10-15 seconds, really good just delaying tactics for GuMiho. This is not meant to be a kill move. It's an annoyance.
Yeah, it also poses a lot of units down to the natural expansion, and so this Reaper able to come into the main base, get the full scout off, sees exactly the gateway count. Yeah, I mean, of course, he already spotted the third and the fourth gas, so you're not going to have something like a 3-gate or a 4-gate Stalker build on your radar. And we actually do now have those siege tanks coming in. First one already moving cross map is GuMiho is getting ready to put a lot of pressure on. Now, Astrea, he still hasn't thrown down that fourth Nexus. He is getting ready to do it. He's already beginning Colossus production.
Not seeing this push out is big. Astrea has the numbers to intercept this and deal with it, but if he doesn't see it coming, instant cancel on the third Nexus. He's got to pull back and gather his forces. It looks like he does have enough to defend this, but it's a frustrating slowdown of that already delayed third base that you mentioned. That being said, I think Charge is done. +1 fin is finished. Colossus are building. I mean, he's got some good tech on him, but look out for the Widow Mine drop. Oh, he changes targets to GuMiho and says, nah, mate. If you're greedy and don't put your workers away, I will punish you. 6 probes go down. GuMiho knows if he can get home safely, he'll be in a good spot. Great drop on the tank to keep it alive. The Stalker's blinking north, trying to get away. The Marines jumping on top. GuMiho showing some fierce play. If he can just get home, he's got a third command center finished. He's miles ahead in the economy. GuMiho, the perfect blend of aggression and macro behind it.
He is getting so much value out of all of his units. Now, finally, Astrea gets some tit for tat here by coming with the Stalkers, shaving off a couple of Marines, but the damage has already been done. We lost so many probes there as Astrea, so much mining time to the initial Widow Mine drop. The third base, it got canceled. It had to get restarted after GuMiho retreated from that position. And for an Astrea who was sitting on 2 bases for so long, Pig, just as you said, the fact that he did not see the move out means that, you know, yeah, you were kind of building, you were mustering this force that could absorb the impact of a push, but you weren't in position to actually execute. And as a result, GuMiho is starting to pull ahead, but look at this move coming in from Astrea. This is a bold move coming into the main base, correctly reading that GuMiho will not have a siege tank set up here in the main. Those Stalkers and Colossi really abusing their mobility. This is a lot of damage actually getting done. A nice play by Astrea.
Very nice move. Gets quite a lot of Marines and SCVs. Doesn't manage to snipe any of those important reactors. Now that the tank's up, oh, don't blink up there. Not when the tank sieges. It started as a brilliant maneuver, but it backfires as he blinks back in. Astrea, he had such success. I mean, he does get a lot of Marines with the Colossus. Is it maybe worth it?
I honestly think it might be. I mean, it probably still edges a little bit in favor of GuMiho there, but the fact that the bio ball got whittled down so much there by Astrea actually does help a lot. That is a nice consolation prize for losing a ton of Stalkers right there in the main base.
Well, it was such a genius move from Astrea, because I was thinking he really needs to counter pressure. He's got the better army if there aren't tanks, but with 3 tanks sieged up in the front, he couldn't move in. So going in the main, like, who thinks to do that? That is just, with these 2 players, they think outside of the box. Astrea's now just looking to contain, put on some pressure, scare him, while actually macroing very hard behind this. GuMiho, of course, double upgrades, armory, extra barracks, mass bio tank coming in, but GuMiho has lost map control, even though he's making a much bigger force right now.
Yeah, and the fact that Astrea behind this, you know, as soon as that third Nexus finishes, he immediately throws down the 4th and the Templar Archive to try and tech back up. And uh-oh, wait, we actually do not have enough Stalkers here. GuMiho can trade out, what, 1 Viking for a Colossus?
That's a trade. Right? I'll take that trade any day, State. That is a delicious trade.
That is a deal and a half right there from GuMiho. As Astrea now, once that 4th Nexus is coming online, he will have a big upswing of mineral economy. So these gateways getting thrown down to really ramp up production here back at home. But I'm a bit concerned here for Astrea. Yes, you do have the 4-base economy online now, but the pendulum has swung. GuMiho, his army has actually gotten very impressive, and he's actually been able to keep so many of these tanks alive. He has not stopped siege tank production. Once he actually gets into a position outside that 4th base, it will be so hard to dislodge him. Astrea needs to catch him, needs to slow him down here in the middle of the map. Watch out for those siege tanks, Astrea. That Colossus is already on half HP after just 1 volley.
It's all about map control, isn't it, State? He's got to slow this push down. Like you said, if he gets up on these rocks with those tanks, Astrea's screwed. He's got to stay out here and keep scaring him, but he doesn't have much vision. He doesn't have observers over this. He's playing blind, whereas, of course, GuMiho has the scans, and he's still macroing behind it. GuMiho's got a 4th command center. Astrea desperately needs to buy time.
Yeah, there's a big window right now for GuMiho to get some damage done. Should those siege tanks get in position, he's been able to cover a lot of ground since the last siege up. Actually unsieging all tanks again and gonna push forward again. Astrea, he's trying to set up for the counterattack, going for the flank. It seems like GuMiho is keyed in on this. He's unsieged though. Okay, Astrea, he pulls back. I thought that might have been a moment where you would go, but he's gonna play it nice and safe. He's happy just to not get pushed. It seems he wants to wait until he has enough Templar with energy to take the next fight.
I mean, he's down 20 army supply. A hero would have gone there. I would have gone there. Most Protoss would have just clicked. They said, unsiege tanks, let's go. Astrea, a bit more methodical than a lot of Protoss players. Kind of says, no, let's not take the risk, drops a 5th base, but he desperately needs to make sure his army grows in size. And the problem is he doesn't have any Disruptor's Eye Templar, but that's a good catch. Oh, the 2 tanks getting saved. GuMiho saving the most valuable units.
Yeah, that is a nice catch there by Astrea, though, really exerting his map control here in the center while he expands. Second Forge is online now, so Astrea, as soon as that +3 finishes up, he's going to be able to start +2 armor in addition to +1 shields. So he's really beginning to build up the gap. Look at the actual upgrades here for GuMiho. I think he only has 1 engineering bay.
Yeah,
he's about to have 2-1 with those +2 armor. Oh, it only just now starts. I wonder if that was forgotten or if the second engineering bay is really this late.
Yeah, it might have just been forgotten for a while. No, he had it much earlier, actually, so he must have just misclicked. But GuMiho's army is so scary. The Mass Zealot, oh no, it's straight with a misclick!
Not like this! So many Zealots getting bled out!
This extra value discount meal, I'll take that any day. The bargain bin 20 Zealot garage sale comes in. Astrea is down massively in supply. He already didn't have splash damage. Other than the Colossus, no Disruptors, no Storm. He cannot really deal with this army in a choke point. The Mass Zealot is nice. He's going to go for it. Zealot flank gets on top of the tanks. The tanks are starting to fall. The Bio army looking pretty good there. The Archons are going okay in the corner, but my gosh, the tank splash, the Marauders are really letting their force be known. Good pullback by Astrea. He's got to keep those Colossus alive. Once they're gone, his army drops in quality massively.
Yeah, well, that first fight was... I mean, the beginning of the fight looked pretty good for Astrea because of that Zealot flank. Unfortunately, GuMiho's economy... Look at how much bio we have reinforcing again, and those Colossi, they are so low on HP. You got to be very careful here as Astrea. Even just a couple of Vikings, a couple of siege tank shots could take those down as GuMiho... You know, he's pressing forward. There isn't a lot of splash damage here. Actually, the Zealot's coming in once again on the bottom right. This is a great surround coming in from Astrea. He's able to use the 12 o'clock expansion 2 as a warp-in point. So GuMiho, he is going to completely evacuate this position. Unfortunately for our American Protoss, he does not have enough stalkers on the ground to actually chase those down, but he will survive. And that is important pick because behind all of this, Astrea has been going for the fleet beacon transition.
Yeah.
+1 air weapons already nearly complete. We already had extra Stargates coming in. Fleet Beacon has begun. Storm is being researched. This is the stage in the game where Astrea, he wants to kind of cool his jets for a couple of minutes and get these very high power units online.
GuMiho right now is going for a lot of command centers and starports and upgrades, but he's not there just yet. We talked about the lib range and how scary it was in the last game and how Astrea had to go before then, right? It's a different story this time around. You don't need to go because you're going to have Tempest or Carriers out. By the time those libs hit, you're going to have Storm, which means if you catch the libs on siege, I mean, they take so much damage from Storm. You're going to have, I wonder if it's Tempest or Carriers. I'd actually love to see just go straight for a handful of Tempests. I think that's such a good way of chipping at your opponent from afar. Carriers is a bit more standard as the opening air unit these days. What do you prefer?
I would have liked to see Tempest too, especially on a map like this one, where if you get one Oracle out, you could really start to shave away the medevac, shave away the Vikings. But the fact that we didn't see an Oracle in production while the Fleet Beacon was coming online makes me think it will almost certainly be Carriers, the big power unit coming in from Astrea. But you know, he doesn't have a lot of supply to work with right now, so it will just be one Carrier, one mothership to start things out. But he is really setting his eyes on the Skytoss transition, a second Cybernetics core coming in.
This is a bit scary for GuMiho because even though he's had great lib range success, think about his big series he's played versus Showtime recently. He struggled in some of the late game fights to find efficiency, like especially the early late game. I think end game GuMiho gets kind of fantastic again, but there is a few scary moments where, like, you know, the storms can land on his bio and his army can kind of crumble. It obviously can go either way. But when I see Maru get to this stage of the game, I always kind of quake in my boots a little bit. But I don't really feel there's any Terran in the world who's as scary in late game TVP as Maru with the Ghost Liberator.
All right, Zealots now coming here towards the triangle third for GuMiho, but there's enough reinforcements. I think Astrea actually trying to bait some of this bio so we can get some big storms off here with these Templar. And back to you, Will. That's a lot of damage being done.
Still chasing his GuMiho. Brave.
Yeah.
Zero fear there, and I think he gets a good enough trade. You know, getting that Templar to morph to the Archon. The Zealot's trying to save the Archon, pushing it. The boys helping each other out.
Oh, it's gonna survive too. Because the shell does not affect massive units. That Archon's gonna get out. That is, I I don't think I've seen quite that interaction before. That is really funny.
I've never seen them shove it like a full screen and a half like that, right? I've seen
usually
them
it's a little
around
bit of a push.
Yeah.
Oh, that is funny, man. That Archon, he's going to buy those Zealots dinner later. They deserve it.
Yeah,
buy him a pint.
Dude, he's going to, yeah.
Wow.
100%. I mean, they're going to be each other's godparents and stuff at a certain point. Now, Storm's going down. Here we go. Archon, High Templar, Zealot coming in from both sides. This is a scary moment for both sides because you're sandwiched as GuMiho, but also that's a lot of bio live eating Storms. This is what I'm talking about. You gotta be careful. Storm is so explosive. If you try to jump in, doesn't get a Storm on those libs before they siege. He's got to move forward. If Astrea gets one good Storm on that army, it could really do well, but look at the way he breaks the rocks, opens up the path. Mom is gonna recall! On top of the army, the combat offensive recall time warp combo. Massive Storm on the libs. Oh my lord, Astrea! It's a crazy play. Is it enough, though? It feels like GuMiho might just have a few too many units. The libs are still alive, and they broke all the units on the left flank. The supply is somehow ahead for Astrea. His carriers are still there. The Stalkers come in, but they're blinking into Marauder Liberator.
The most important part of that is, Astrea, the recalled units, they got taken out, but look at the anti-hero right now. For GuMiho, there's basically nothing. The carriers can clean almost everything up. We have a Ghost trying to shoot valiantly down on these interceptors, but the carriers reinforcing from the top left side are enough to completely clear the board. And that was a brilliant move coming in from Astrea. It looked kind of dicey there for a moment, but with the carrier reinforcements coming in, what a win for the Protoss. And you know, things have kind of evened up, and now Astrea can really lean heavily back into the carriers. He is building only the power units right now. He is remaxing on carriers, on immortals, on a mothership. He is getting additional upgrades in the air, +3 air weapons coming in, +2 air armor coming in. Shield upgrades already +1 is online. He is not wasting much money except on a couple of Zealots to eventually throw away with counterattacks. He is trying to amass the most powerful army he can with the time that he has bought after clearing the table from GuMiho's forces.
That is the first time I've ever seen someone warp behind a Terran siege push like that with the recall on the mothership. That is legitimately, I mean, maybe someone out there can send me a clip on social media or something, let us know. I've never seen that. I've never seen someone, and especially with the time warp initiating the fight. Remember, that reduced the attack speed by 50% for most of GuMiho's army. 50% attack speed reduction is massive. I mean, what a genius fight for Astrea. It doesn't mean it's over by any means. It ended up being a very close fight, but as his air upgrades max out, the carriers are just getting better and better against the Marines, against the Ghosts to what they were in that last battle. The problem is he's a little low on Storm right now. He's very low on High Templar.
He is a little bit low on Storm, but I don't know if GuMiho has realized how big this transition is for Astrea. He's making Marauders 5 at a time, even in this moment. Of course, having Marauders in your army is always going to be useful. They're going to be able to take a lot more damage, but
you gotta have
am really worried about the anti-air. Actually, can we take a look at the units tab right now? Because we have so many carriers out and only 40 Marines. 10 carriers to 40 Marines with Storm. Another time warp coming in. Another recall from the American Protoss blinking forward. The Marines are on the run. That unit tab is getting really shredded down, and GuMiho has to evacuate, and Astrea on only 180 supply is pushing him to the limit.
GuMiho's going to go on the north. Recall can't be used because he EMP'd it. He EMP'd the Nexus in the far north. Great move by GuMiho. I thought if Astrea catches that army, recalls back to the north, it'd be brilliant. But right now, we get a little bit of a mini base trade. I feel like Astrea, if he could lose some army, he might be able to defend with Warpins, but he's not losing that much army. The Stalker's going in the carriers, fighting against the Marines and the Vikings. There's not enough Vikings. Stay, there is not enough anti-air for GuMiho. If these carriers get on top of the production, it will be game over. GuMiho frantically pulls behind his production. He needs to gather more Marines, more Vikings, but he doesn't have many. 9 carriers will crush 11 Vikings, especially because the upgrades are way better for Astrea.
Astrea's micro is so good with those carriers, able to shift click all the flying units there for GuMiho, and now the bio, it can't even heal up. The Storm is huge! All the bio locked in the corner of the Sim City, and Astrea with some insane tactics with a brilliant sky toss transition is able to flex his muscles. GuMiho, he's still fighting back on Astrea's side of the map, but the Zealots eventually are going to be able to whittle that down. The protection for Darren completely off the board, and I think we're going to have Astrea going up 2-1. Man, this series pick is delivering. These are some of the most fun PvT games I have seen in a long time.
I love looking at Max's reaction there because you can tell he's excited, he's pumped, he's a little nervous, he's kind of ecstatic at how well that worked, but also a little anxious as well. And I mean, that just wraps up this entire moment for these players, doesn't it? It's just wow. Astrea's games are always entertaining.
This is like a dream matchup between Astrea and GuMiho because they're both very good players. I would say they're very even in terms of their playing fields, but the way that they match up stylistically just produces the most unique situations.
It's not TVP, is it?
The most fun games. It is spectacular TVP. As we're looking here at the highlights. I mean, this recall coming in, Pig, this was so cool. And honestly, it doesn't look like it's the best fight for Astrea because we're watching the bottom right side of this.
Yeah.
So many of these key units are getting picked off because they don't have a lot of meat in front of them. I mean, the Marauders are just absolutely shredding the Colossi, the Stalkers, the Immortals. But off screen, the carriers on the top left side, all the Marines are dead. Where is the anti-air? There's none. And so Astrea can reset. He can clean everything up with the carriers. And the transition is so far online. Plus 2 air weapons, plus 1 air armor with more upgrades coming in and 3 carriers at a time being produced. I mean,
hats off to GuMiho. He EMP'd every High Templar that recalled. If he didn't instantly EMP those, and there was a storm on the bio on the backside as well, can you imagine how one-sided that fight would have been? I mean, anyway, either way, great play from Astrea. The carrier transit. I was like, Tempest would be cool to pick at your opponent. And Astrea's like, how about I dominate the skies with carriers? That's such a good play. And GuMiho, I thought he was looking pretty good this game, but maybe overextended with that tank push on the 4th base earlier. I feel like GuMiho was doing really well. But we always see that moment when you lose a tank push and suddenly the Protoss is able to bounce back and recover. Tanks are good at surviving, but they're not that good at pushing aggressively.
Wow. I mean, what a game from Astrea. I am still almost spellbound. Like, I feel like I'm beaming after watching those plays with the Mothership. They were just so innately cool. See the fist pump right there from our American Protoss players. He's now 1 match win away from advancing to the next round here in Group A in the upper bracket. And I mean, these games have just been so good. And
yeah, it's such a great, creative and exciting players. And even at the end of that game, GuMiho was building 3 factories.
Yeah, I know. He's still like, trying to keep the crazy plays coming. He's
I got to make a Thor transition counter the carriers, which they do. They do counter carriers pretty hard. I don't know if he had the vehicle weapon upgrades and armor upgrades to get there, but it's actually kind of fascinating because, yeah, GuMiho's had success with his very cheesy build. He's kind of had advantages and overextended in the more standard games. And that's a little worrying for him as we go into the next map. Do we go back to all-out aggression? I wouldn't mind a straight-up just bunker tank push or something like that. One of these 5-minute, 2 tanks and a pack of Marines. It's just risky because when you don't have any lives left, you're down 1 to 2. You cannot make any more mistakes as GuMiho.
Yeah, I think as GuMiho, these next 2 games, you really have to bring out your aggressive tricks in this TVP because as it looks right now, Astrea, that practice is paying off. He has been grinding. As I said, he has been living in Korea for, I think, a couple of months now. Just training with a ton of other pros, grinding the Korean ladder, just completely focused in on his game. And you can see the results of all of that practice manifesting on stage right now on the biggest RTS stage of all time with some beautiful transitions, some creative plays, some very quirky and unique openings. And I mean, it has paid off. So for GuMiho, I don't think you let Astrea come through with his mid-game game plan. I think you try and nip him in the bud. You go very early. Yeah. And you try and force Astrea to react to you.
Yeah, Astrea's kind of, he's kind of getting in trouble. Like, I mean, remember that first push tonight is 3rd? It felt like he was pretty far behind in workers. Hats off to the Colossus plus Blink in the main as well. We didn't even get, they didn't even make the highlight reel.
That's how crazy that game was.
That's how good and crazy that game was. Like, literally him being like, here, 10 Stalkers and a Colossus, Blink in the main base. Let's go. Let's walk up the ledge and kill like 30 Marines. It was such a brilliant maneuver there. GuMiho, though, he calmly handled it. For those who are wondering, by the way, we should be a little bit more viewer-friendly as well coming in for the World Championship. Why does GuMiho have that little sack on his mouth? So basically, he just sweats a lot. He just has a, whether you call it a medical condition, he just happens to sweat a lot, doesn't want his hand to be slippery. So he's always, since like 10 plus years ago, always played with either a little microfiber cloth, a little towel, something like that over, and he's just completely used to it. That's how he always plays. So it's not like he has like an injury or anything like that if you're worried. It's weird for a lot of people to think, how do you play like that? But he's just used to it at this point.
All right, coming into game number 4, 1 map win away from winning this best of 5 series. Give it up for your American Protoss player, Astrea.
You can feel how tense it is for both players up there in the bottom right side of Oceanborn. And it's now or never. He's got to win the next 2 maps in a row. It's GuMiho for Cloud9.
But when you're up against the ropes, the way that GuMiho is right now in this moment, what build do you fall back on? Because GuMiho, of all the Terran players, and it feels like basically every single matchup, might have the most range. He has so many quirky builds. He really does just kind of play his own style. He carries over the heritage of being a random player as a pro at the very beginning of his StarCraft II career. You can really feel that kind of just the ripple effect of that, even a decade later in his Terran play, how unique he is. And so he's got to have a million possible things in his head that he could possibly do in this game. What do you choose? Do you go for a 2-gas opening and try and get a lot of aggressive plays done early with high-tech units? Do you go for something a little bit more bunker-heavy in the early stages? What is the pressure build from GuMiho? Because I really do think it has to be pressure against an Astrea that is looking so rock solid in the mid and the late game.
I have a wish list. I would love to see either Hellion drop mixed in here, nice and early. I think that's just a good build to mix in. Always hasn't done it yet in a series. But also, I think the double reactor play on the barracks. Like his single, it's normal. You go 2 tech labs, 1 reactor on your barracks. He goes 1 tech lab, 2 reactors, and that might sound like the most ultimate nerdy, like. If you're not an expert Terran, but you're like, what are you guys talking about? Oh, wow, 1 add-on's different. It completely changes the whole early game. You end up being able to hit these timings with a massive amount of Marines. It's like a glass cannon army, huge amount of damage, very fragile, and you can do these massive Marine tank pushes that just take your opponent out. So those are a really cool style that he always kind of has in his back pocket. We'll see what he brings out as the Twilight Council goes down. Astrea not wanting to risk things on the more fragile Stargate opening. No Phoenix Colossus at all in this series. Kind of odd, 4 games into a PvT. We normally see that at least 1 in 3 games, I feel like.
Yeah, it feels like things have kind of gone off the rocker a little bit here for Astrea in some of these early games. Going for the DT play, and I believe, what was it, map number 1, map number 2, and not having that really pan out. I think here's Astrea against a GuMiho that hasn't gone double gas. It makes sense to not bring out the Phoenix Colossus play just yet, because Phoenix Colossus, especially in the early game with those Phoenix, they're really good if you can catch, say, like the first Cyclones coming out, the first medevac with Widow Mines or something coming out from a double gas build. They're very good against that kind of high-tech style if you're in good position, if you can catch the Terran units. But the fact that GuMiho hasn't really done that so far in this series, has actually been playing a little bit less tech-heavy, as we have this funny little dance between the Adept and the SCV. I think it makes a lot of sense for Astrea to just kind of be like, you know what, I'm just going to do something that's very well-rounded, very safe,
if you feel
very
it's more
conservative.
Stable, right? Yeah.
I'm going to try and play more 2-base tech-heavy, and to do that, I'm going to get the Robo on 2 bases. I'm going to start with Blink, and I will kind of be able to absorb the impact of anything that GuMiho throws at me early on.
Second gate Robo, quick shield battery, similar build order to last game. But only a 3rd gas so far. No 4th. Oh, there we go. 4th gas does, same build order as last game for Astrea. So Astrea wants to play fast. Colossus off Blink again. 7 Marine drop coming forward. There's a Cyclone as well. GuMiho going for some heavy pressure. Tank and Viking behind it. Wow. Okay, GuMiho. We said we wanted to see some aggression, some heavy pressure state. I think your wish is being delivered here, as that is an incredibly aggressive stance. If we see another tank start up, then we know he's basically just going for broke. Yeah, he is going to be pushing this one immediately. Another tank starts up, and so GuMiho going to be moving across the map, and he wants to lay siege to this wall in very quickly now. As opposed to a couple of the other maps, the Robo is not all the way in the front, but the pylon powering it is. And there's no Immortal.
Yeah.
He skipped the Immortal. He's gone Robo Bay Observer. No Immortal. How do you defend this?
It's going to be very tough. He doesn't even have any idea. The Observer just now is seeing the Marines. If those Stalkers move down, he could buy maybe a couple of seconds. And yes, he will do that, but is it going to be enough? Already, GuMiho is knocking on the door. The Siege Tank is in position. More Siege Tanks rallied across the map in addition to the Vikings. First one is going to be entering the fray, and this gateway is going to be going down. Immortal, now it gets started, Pig, but is it a little bit too late?
Yeah, it's very, very late state. Astrea, shield battery overcharge comes down. Stalker's trying to fight against this. The medevac pickup is slick from GuMiho. Battery overcharge gets some value though, and Astrea's doing a brilliant job of buying time. GuMiho, the crazy dive. He gets the tank, but it costs him a couple of Stalkers, and now he's out of battery healing. The second battery's not ready. The Immortal comes out. The Immortal can get rid of the Cyclone. That's big. Hot pickups for GuMiho are good. GuMiho trying to hunt down these Stalkers. Astrea frantically microing. Another tank comes in. The Immortal does take out the Cyclone, but the Siege Tank is here. If he can get rid of the tank, then Astrea can hold. If he cannot get rid of the tank, he's done for. He clears the tank, but he loses the Immortal. He's only got 3 Stalkers against landed Viking, a pack of Marines, and SCVs. It's neck and neck. The probes may have to be pulled there. That is still a big pack of Terran units. 3 Stalkers with no support. The Colossus, that pylon. Oh, no!
Oh, man, the pylon's going to go down. Only 2 Stalkers and another gateway Gateway going to be coming offline as well as the Robo. Astrea up until this point, it was a beautiful attempt at a hold, but these Vikings getting repaired by the SCVs, the medevac healing the small number of Marines here on the front line. I don't know if Astrea can stabilize from this point, already losing the probes, and we are going to a game number 5, a valiant attempt to hold on, but GuMiho, he brought out that aggression pig, it paid off, and we are going to that final map.
Demanding respect. GuMiho there really finding a way to assert control and actually get in charge of the series now, because this is the sort of push where you kind of think, oh, I should be safe against this with this opening with the battery, you know, we're doing this and this, but you can't be affording to rush the Robo Bay and get an observer. You're already doing a 2-gate expand. You might be thinking, oh, there's no third base, it's safe. No way, you're going 4 gas, a Robo Bay, you're not building that many Stalkers. This is a very risky build for Astrea, and it gets punished, and this gives GuMiho so much more confidence, because now he can fake this sort of pressure, macro behind it, and he knows Astrea is going to have to respect it. He's got the respect of his opponent, and this is such a scary position to be in for Astrea.
Yeah, and I think he had a beautiful point to kick the whole thing off, is if Astrea hadn't skipped the Immortal, if he had the Immortal in the very first engagement as GuMiho is coming at him, this might still be a hold. It would be very close, too close to really say, frankly, whether Astrea actually would have been able to pull it out of the bag, but he would have made the work a lot easier for him. He would have had a much better chance to actually hold on here against this push, and you saw so many of the Terran hits actually go down. For a moment, I was thinking that might be enough, but there were just enough SCVs.
Yeah.
I mean, those Vikings, they might not look intimidating, but trust me, they pack a punch. When they're going up against 2 Stalkers, maybe 3 Stalkers with no shield battery, they deal out a lot of damage.
That's actually one of those funny changes. Like, it's many years ago now, but they're like, you know, the Vanded Viking really just doesn't perform well. We're going to give it some bonus mechanical damage because, you know, we want it to be a Zerg-friendly landed unit, but against Terran and Protoss, my gosh, when it's dealing with probes, or when it's dealing with Stalkers, it does a lot of damage per second. The landed Viking is actually surprisingly powerful.
Oh, man.
Beats a Stalker easily 1-to-1, right? If the
Yeah,
Stalkers
no
don't stutter step, then they kind of get wrecked by the Viking.
A lot of the power of the Stalker, though, is kind of
it's definitely
caught
not
up in the blink and the mobility,
it's
right?
Not really a standard fight aim move unit, is it?
Yeah. I feel like if the Stalker was able to beat the Viking one-on-one when it's landed in the current state of the Viking, the game would have a problem.
The unit that shoots up, shoots down, can teleport, you know, it's one of the fastest tier 1 units. You're like, okay, yeah, maybe the Stalker shouldn't be able to do that, but just kind of gives you an idea of the damage per second there. And that's kind of unfortunate. Astrea playing the same game, build 2 games in a row, both times gets in trouble. Wins the first one, doesn't win the next one. And now the series is going to be decided up here in the top right side of the map on Alcyon. It is Cloud9's GuMiho. He's on that comeback train right now.
And hoping to close this one out. Spawning in the bottom left, representing Virtus Pro. It is your American Protoss, Astrea. So close. One map went away from advancing, and everything is going to come right down to this. And what a series it has been so far, Pig. I mean, what a treat to cast this. These guys are not holding back in the slightest. We've seen some of the craziest builds, some of the craziest maneuvers we've seen in PvTs, and I don't even know how long.
I mean, I love watching these two play. For the longest time, you know, I always joke that like GuMiho is so fun to watch, and then you play against him and you're like, playing against him is not fun. You talk to Astrea about this matchup and he's like, man, it's hard to prepare for GuMiho.
And GuMiho now is finally bringing out the double gas build on the final map. And Astrea actually, is he playing no scout? I'm looking at the minimap right now.
Yeah.
I don't think he sent a single probe.
I like that. I actually think no scout's even better versus this, but it depends if you take some sort of precaution, right? Afterwards, right? Because if you just now chrono 3 gateway units, make a shield battery because you've got extra minerals, you should be fine against the early pressure. The problem is the follow-up scouting. And we haven't really seen, like, Astrea used to always go either fast Stargate or he'd go fast Sentry, Hallucination. He hasn't had that scouting. That's why he had no idea what was happening in the last game. It's why he was trying to rush the Observer. So, like, it's nice to have the more minerals. What do you think would be most punishing, though, for you to not know it's double gas? Is it something like a Hellion drop? Is it, like, what sort of rushes do you think are the scariest for a Protoss that hasn't scouted?
It's hard to say because really with a double gas opening, you can kind of do anything. You could go for that Hellion drop in the main base if it goes unscouted. Then suddenly 3-4 Hellions, you are losing a ton of workers. We could see some absolutely insane build, like maybe it's going to be a proxy armory. We go for some kind of Widow Mine drilling claws play. We did see some Terran players trying that after the patch in the GSL even.
Yes.
The problem here for Protoss is not like one or two specific things that are very scary with a double gas build.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you don't know what's coming, and it is going to lean very heavily in some direction. And
Indeed.
if you don't have that on your radar, you can be in trouble. And look at this coming in from GuMiho. It's actually a lot of Reapers.
Yeah, he went Reactor
and
first.
Hellions.
I mean, Reactor first is... It gives you so much production. Already going 4 Reapers and 2 Hellions will no doubt be queuing up in a moment. This is Zealot scouts it. Doesn't quite get the SCV, but the Adept able to finish it off.
Okay, with a recall, it's barely going to survive, right? Okay.
Yeah. If you lose that Adept, you're in big trouble against the counterattack.
Yeah, I feel like Astrea in a minute is going to need to start walling in this natural expansion. This is almost a little bit of a throwback build coming in from GuMiho. I wasn't quite expecting this with the Hellions and the Reapers because, you know, with these units moving cross map, they're very fast. They're very good at picking off probes. And he actually gets the Hellion. That is a nice win there for Astrea. You're kind of okay with that, just trading one Adept. Obviously, it's not ideal. But this build was all the rage like maybe 4, 5, 6 months ago.
4 Reapers and a Hellion coming in for the pressure. Only 1 Stalker and 1 Adept available. No Warlock available. Builds a gateway as a slight blocker, and he does have the battery to fall back on. Already starting to get some damage on this. 2 more Reapers still building behind this. It's incredibly committed for GuMiho.
Yeah, Warp Gate is only just now finishing, so it's going to be a couple of seconds before Astrea is able to get the next Warp in. This Hellion going to go to town on these probes in the main base. Fortunately for Astrea, he does have the shield battery in the natural expansion, so that is going to mitigate the damage. Up until this point, only a couple of probes going down. 3 probes, it might look like a lot of damage, but GuMiho sacrificed a lot to get this done. For Astrea, I'm looking at this and I'm feeling pretty good.
3 probes, yeah, it's a big win. I agree with you 100% there, State. Liberator's coming in behind, so it's not done. He preserved some of the Reapers. This was not a I've completely given up map control. You've still got this squad of 5 Reapers, and this creates a prolonged situation that's very awkward. I'd actually like to see Astrea wall off the Reaper ledge in the north. He's got 3 Stalkers ready here. Nice positioning. Gonna get himself a Reaper very early. GuMiho's gonna fight the Mad Dog.
Oh, no. I feel like this wasn't an intentional fight. I think that he kind of maybe wasn't expecting these Stalkers on the high ground, and then the Reapers got there. He's like, okay, I kind of have to take this engagement. But with 3 Stalkers, you're able to 2-shot them, and that was a lot of Reapers going down. And yes, I do know the Reapers, they fall off quite heavily in the mid game, but you still don't want to trade them out like that.
Absolutely not. Dark Shrine goes down, realizing that it's unlikely for there to be a Raven in this game. That's a very smart Dark Shrine, but it's also a big commitment on 2 base as the Liberator starts to come in behind the natural. Astrea's done well. But guess what? Now the nerves kick in. He's supply blocked. The Liberator's coming in. There's a lot of chances to make huge mistakes over this next little period. Now, to be fair, I mean, that unsupply blocks you, so at least you can build a few more probes straight away. There's little, you know, silver linings. The glass is half full for the Protoss fans watching. Stalker's going to go for a bit of aggression himself. Both sides really trying to put their opponent on the defensive. And look at that. A couple of SCVs going down. Lovely harassment for Astrea. GuMiho unsieges his tank. And you know what? 4 SCVs, 1 Marine, almost gets the second one, and then he just departs from the base. I'm not sure if the Liberator went down, but these Reapers do get deflected.
Yeah, not sure if the Liberator is still up, but that is some nice damage coming in from Astrea with just a handful of Stalkers. Doesn't cost him anything. Now, the DT Shrine did get seen right there by GuMiho, so he does have this on his radar. Engineering Bay is already coming online, so he shouldn't get caught completely dead in the water once these GCs move cross map, and the Liberator did survive.
Yes, it's going to be interesting because the Marine tank count grows. And Astrea, he's making Dark Templar against the player who knows they exist, but I haven't seen turrets up yet. First turret just started. Dark Templar running into the natural, dropping in the main. No turret in the main base as far as I know right now. He's going to try and drop in. There's plenty of units available. There should be a scan or 2, though. And this is a very risky move for Astrea, who doesn't have any splash damage on the way, and already 1 Dark Templar goes down. 1 does get saved. The one in the natural is where the damage is being dealt.
Yeah, no turret done just yet. Finally does finish. And for 4 SCVs, you do not want to lose 2 Dark Templar because for Astrea, there isn't really a lot of splash damage coming along the way. And even charge only just now beginning. It's going to be a challenge for him to hold on against the push that GuMiho is eventually going to bring cross map right now with a ton of siege tanks. And
it's match point though, State. Do you think if it has the decisiveness to push? Because it's very scary. GuMiho's kind of blind, but it feels like he has to, right?
I think you do go for the push here as GuMiho. You saw that your opponent went for all these DTs. They did not get very much done. You know that he's not going to have Colossus tech coming online. He probably will not have the gas to have Templar tech coming online. High Templar, that is. Oh, the Warp Prism even getting taken down. That's going to give GuMiho a lot of freedom to rally freely across the map at his opponent. And Astrea only has a handful of Stalkers, but actually, look at this pick. He is going for Blink DTs.
I mean, he's the president of the Clown College. I said it at the start of the series. The man, a lot of people, when it gets tense, they stop doing creative things. Astrea knows that he plays his best StarCraft when he's playing creative. He's got 8-gate charge, DT, and Immortals building. He stopped building probes a while ago, but he is still down on army. He needs time.
We are not going to have combat shields on these Marines. If there are enough Blink DTs with charge zealots, he's even blinking 4. All the Marines getting taken down. Oh my goodness, Astrea with a 1 DT. He's able to clean out all those Marines.
The slow zealots are actually cleaning up the tank state. It's something you almost never see. This is bizarre. Both sides taking heavy losses there. Non-combat shield Marines, as you pointed out, they don't even have +1. And I do think GuMiho's out of scans. Another Dark Templar coming in would be brilliant, but he spent all of his gas on Stalkers. The battery overcharge does pretty well. He's got to get back to it, though. That tank positioning, rather nice. The Liberator did get taken out on the left side by the Stalkers. The tanks there unsieging the Stalkers, trying to commit. It's a bit too dangerous. Astrea, I don't know if he's got the numbers for this, but those Marines are just so fragile.
Yeah, they're very fragile. No combat shields in the pipeline right now, so GuMiho, he is bleeding out, and this push that was supposed to get so much damage done. Even the Immortal getting caught there in the middle of the map. I mean, Astrea absorbed that impact so well, and he did it in a unique way. He didn't wait for all those key upgrades to finish. I was looking at it thinking, you know, charge zealots with DTs, with blink, you can kind of blink on top and just go for the throat as soon as those upgrades are done. Astrea, he doesn't even wait for it. He moves it with a slow zealots, and now he is riding that momentum, continuing to push forward. Charge is done now. These medevacs solo on HP are getting bled out. There is no healing. Still no combat shields, even in production here for GuMiho. And Astrea on 3 bases is able to push the 2 base Terran all the way back.
What a hold, and what the Dark Templar trickling in that moment when he didn't have a scan, just as he'd sieged up, and like 6 Marines went down, 6 wipes from the Dark Templar. GuMiho, you can tell he realizes he's just lost all of his momentum in this series. He was so committed to that aggression, but Astrea was able to defend. What a close competitive series this has been, and I gotta say, Day 1 of the Esports World Cup for StarCraft II is absolutely delivering so far. We've already had a few fantastic series. It is showing the caliber, the preparation of the players, but it's not over yet this series. Astrea has a supply lead. He has a 4th Nexus going up. He's only just starting his splash damage. His Robo Bay is about to finish, and he's going to only now begin Colossus production.
Yeah, the splash damage is coming in very late, but in a way, that's kind of a boon here for Astrea. It's one of the reasons why he's been able to muster enough forces on the ground, like those high gas-intensive DTs, like all of those charge zealots, to actually bring the fight to GuMiho and absorb the impact of the first big push. Now, this CT is going to come in. We'll be able to spot the landing time of that 3rd base. Should Astrea decide to work his way up there? Instead, it seems like he's just going to kind of wait. He's going to try and see when GuMiho's multitasking gets taxed, and then he will move it on to those SCVs. Maybe that's the moment you come in once this Warp Prism, uncontested, works its way into the main base. Now, there is a turret, and it is Zealots in this Warp Prism, but there aren't a lot of reinforcements. Add-on's only just now finishing on these 2 barracks on the bottom side, so some nice hold position micro on those SCVs will buy some time, reduce the surface area on those Zealots so that GuMiho can hold.
Oh, another Prism in the open. GuMiho drops on top. Can he take it out? Yes, he can. 3 Zealots in the Prism going down. Astrea getting a little bit overconfident with that push. There was no need for him to try to save those 2 Zealots. He kind of fumbled it back and forth a little, but despite it, his position is getting so much better. He's got a double gas. That purple gas gives plus 100% mining on that left base. It's a little exposed, but with his position now, look at that. Colossus is out. He's got double Robo up. Interestingly, only 1 Colossus as he builds more Observers and Immortals. I think he's realizing map control is a little light. Let's build some forward pylons, get some forward gateways maybe. 2nd Forge comes in. GuMiho, on the other hand, is of course a bit down in workers, but not massively so with mules. He's got the Ghost Academy, plus 2 weapons coming in. GuMiho has ways of getting back into this game, but there are just no direct, easily measurable advantages. For him, it's very much let's try and get a bit of value here, get a bit of value there, and make sure you're very careful to not get caught out, because Astrea is the one who has the scarier force on the map right now.
Yeah, the main issue for GuMiho, it feels, is that this is a stage in the game where he should be having most map control. He should have the presence on the map. He should be trying to get some pressure, some damage done on Astrea's corner, but he absolutely cannot do it. Look at the army that Astrea has in the bottom right side of the map. It is massive, and even this observer placement, able to catch the move out here from GuMiho.
Yes.
Astrea might try and set a trap here in the center of the map. Now, that tower still not yet activated. Now, finally, GuMiho gets a glimpse at the Protoss army, and it is a mighty one. 20 supply ahead of GuMiho as we have the 3rd Warp Prism coming in. +2 ground weapons starting up now here for Astrea as he's slowly closing the upgrade gap. But really, I mean, you could see these 4 bases and especially that high yield investment in gas starting to pay off. GuMiho with that tower, he did spot the warp prism.
It's the third prism in this game,
yeah.
man. So many warp prisms. Oh, hey, it survives, gets out of there for now.
Yeah.
By the way, Blink DT finished, right? I don't think Shadow Stride ever got cancelled, but I don't think we've actually seen it get cast at all in this game because it's just been so intense.
Yeah, it feels like he was gunning to use it to thwart the first push, but he didn't really need it, right? We haven't seen too many DTs get in. Yeah, he wasn't ready in time. He realized the opportunity came before that and Charge both finished.
Well, he's got such a great ground arm. He doesn't really need the Blink DT just yet. Single Marauder gets clipped by the Disruptor as the Zealot Stalker Colossus roams. 4 more gateways coming in. 5th Nexus. Astrea rounding out his position, and with a solid 13 army supply advantage, he could probably push in for victory. GuMiho's looking for the perfect fight. He needs great EMPs. Oh, Stalker's here, blading out the Widow Mines. Great micro to get rid of those Widow Mines before the fight starts. There's no libs, there's not many Vikings. This is such a problem for GuMiho. He needs the perfect fight, but he's drastically outnumbered.
Some really big EMPs come on Astrea's army, but does it actually matter? Especially with these Disruptors right now. GuMiho, he's basically fighting in a corner between these 2 bases. Great dodge. Oh no, it actually gets a couple of those ghosts. Second shot comes in, is going to barely get defused there by GuMiho. It's a beautiful arc for the Terran. So many Marauders laying waste to these armored units. The Stalkers, the Immortals, as Astrea's backline falls. But again, his economy is overpowering. He has 1k minerals in the bank with a Warping of Zealots. Yes, you did lose a lot of critical units there as Astrea, but you are on 5 bases in a moment against a Terran who is still struggling on 3. And as a result, because of Mules, that main base, that natural expansion here for Terran, they are mining out much faster than the Protoss player is. And now finally that 5th Nexus, it is coming online. Astrea, from this position, his MO could basically be, okay, GuMiho, I will not let you take a 4th base.
Yeah.
And that is a win condition. At this stage of Astrea decides to play for it.
I mean, the income is just out of hand. The main is mined out for GuMiho. His natural's half gone on the minerals. He's essentially on 1 base mining, maybe a little bit more, 1.5 bases we could call it. And that's just not enough to keep things up. Mules are good for temporarily boosting it. But as you said, his base is mining out faster than ever. Fusion Core halfway done. Bunkers there, 3-2 weapons on the way for GuMiho. He's getting to late game tech, but he's doing it on a poor Terran's economy against a very wealthy Protoss. I mean, this Protoss, he could buy your house. He can buy your car. You're gonna come home, all your furniture's gone. Like, it's just, Astrea can throw money at this problem until he solves it. He's got so many Disruptors coming in. His gateway count's out of hand. I'd love to see the structures tab because I think he must be getting close to 20 gateways at this point.
Yeah, it is just absolutely explosive. Astrea's economy is off the charts. Even these Zealots coming. Oh, what a blink by the Stalkers! No way can GuMiho retreat. And look at the Zealots even getting so much damage done. Disruptor's gonna be able to try to find the shots because there's no place to micro here for GuMiho, but with the reinforcements coming in, did Astrea overextend a little bit? And one of my shots going to try and connect, but no, GG is called. Astrea is able to power through in an incredible series pick. One of the most enjoyable PvTs I have seen in a very long time, and you can see her at the Esports World Cup. The StarCraft